was pottery. Here's the mystery. The Jomon were a supposedly primitive hunter-gatherer culture. And yet they were the first people in the world to make pottery. Thousands of years earlier than any other culture known to archaeologists. Their pottery representations of the human figure called dogu express a fantastic and wonderful artistic sensibility. These strange and wonderful representations of the human form, sometimes half beast, half man. If we were to judge the Jomon purely in terms of their economic lifestyle, we would tend to say this is a rather primitive hunter-gatherer people. But when we look at their art, we hear a different story.
We truly don't understand the Jomon people. We know a lot of what you would call basic data. We have lots of figurines. What they mean, we don't know.
What's so special about the Jomon?
We certainly don't have the whole story, and never will. That's the fun part of it. We don't even have all the facts, I'm sure. I'm not sure the exact number of Jomon sites. Roughly 150,000 Jomon sites. Probably half of them excavated to some extent. Millions and millions of pots, and they're just everywhere. Rarely do you see two pots that look much alike. Every time you dig a Jomon site, you find something that hasn't been found before.
I've come to Sanai Murayama in northern Japan. What they found here takes us way beyond pottery. It's considered so important to Japanese prehistory that a complete reconstruction has now been built. Discovered in 1995, it's a place that's forcing archaeologists to revise their views of the Jomon. What effect did it have on archaeological thinking about the level of Jomon culture?
Before Sanai Murayama was discovered, people had thought of the Jomon as primitive hunters, living a very basic life. But after the discovery, opinion changed. Archaeologists realized that the Jomon people were much more complex.
Here they've reconstructed a huge monument which demonstrates that Jomon had a shrewd understanding of maths and astronomy as far back as 5,000 years ago. Professor Kobayashi has studied how the Jomon created a calendar.
Point of sunset and sun rising was an exact calendar for Jomon people. They construct the monument to the special day. Many people gathered and had feast.
The sun would rise in the east at the summer solstice. Professor Kobayashi explains how the posts are exactly aligned to mark Midsummer's Day.
Just noontime
Yes.
Of the special day of midsummer,
Yes.
the shadow
Yes.
between the corridor.
The shadows from the posts exactly divide the base of the structure at midday on Midsummer's Day. It's highly unlikely to be a coincidence. And it tells us that the Jomon must have had a very long background building large, precisely oriented structures before they built this one. At Yonaguni, astronomical calculations show that the structure stood on a very significant latitude. It would have been exactly on the ancient Tropic of Cancer, a circle around the northern half of the Earth connecting all the points where the sun stands directly overhead at midday on the summer solstice. The ancient Jomon interest in the sun could provide a rational motive for such a massive work. In my travels, I found an extraordinary ancient people, the Jomon, and phenomenal underwater structures equally ancient. What I'm looking for is a more tangible link to bind them together. And I think I've found it. Professor Keeley told me about a little-known phenomenon: stone circles.
Sometimes the circles are of very large diameter. Sometimes they're smaller circles put together like the links of a chain. And sometimes they use megaliths.
Komakino looks like a miniature amphitheater. It happens to be on a minor slope, so you have the circle, but the hillside actually looks like the seats in a stadium. A very interesting layout. What they are, I don't know. Do you go in there and dance in the circle? No evidence of bonfires. It's going to take an awful lot more study.
This custom of building stone circles has only been traced back amongst the Jomon to about 5,000 years ago. But I think I've found evidence on the seabed of a spectacular hidden ancestry to the Jomon stone circles. It's at another underwater site that I've been exploring 200 miles north of Yonaguni, off the Kerama Islands.
It's a strange feeling for me. If I was underwater now, I could easily be amongst the stone circles of Kerama. Small circles made of river pebbles, exactly like these, that bear the unmistakable imprint of the Jomon.
But what I realized as I came to Ashoro is that all the stone circles are built close to the coast.
With a diameter of 33 meters, that's about 100 feet, Ashoro is the largest Jomon stone circle so far discovered above water.
This circle is thought to be about 4,000 years old. But 10,000 years ago, when we know the Jomon were active, any circles built near the coast would now be underwater. That's exactly the situation with the stone circles that I've found at Kerama.
Sites with the good artifacts might well be coastal. As the oceans have risen, the sites that we really need to find are underwater. That's a very likely possibility.
The Great Submerged Circle lies about 3 miles offshore of the nearest of the Kerama Islands, but it was a few kilometers inland before 10,000 years ago. Sea levels were much lower then, and Kerama was connected to the main island of Okinawa. If Kerama is a Jomon site 10,000 years old, then that would require us to consider the Jomon as a civilized people when there's supposed to have been no civilization. But still there's one big problem. Geologists like Wolf Wichmann, who don't believe the underwater structures can be man-made at all.
This is extremely strange.
It is.
The stone is hanging over this canyon.
Over the edge.
Kept very crazy.
Now it's time to put Kerama on trial, and I brought my arch-skeptic Wolf to deliver his verdict. Kerama's a tricky dive. There's only a slim window of opportunity in the lull between raging currents. And frankly, I'm nervous as we jump in. But not because of the currents. The deep blue water is calm. My nerves are about what Wolf's going to make of this place. Because no matter how good the evidence for a Jomon link to the stone circle may be, I know that no one's going to take it seriously if a marine geologist tells me it's a totally natural structure. We drop down over the base of the circle, 90 feet underwater. There's a labyrinth of side passages branching amongst the forest.